sits in their designated pews. Everybody stands to sing the hymns and praise songs. We sit and listen to the scriptures and Daniel's most excellent messages.
Amen, brother. Preach it.
But now I want you to imagine a Sunday going just like I said, but now somebody collapses or passes out due to the hot weather or a medical condition. This has happened before to us. We all know this kind of accident. But what do many people do in this kind of situation? Many people rush to help that person, whether it's getting water for them, calling 911, or stretching that person out on the floor. But what if we imagine again another ordinary Sunday, but this time when somebody collapses, nobody rushes to help. Everybody knows what has just happened, but they just look away. And at the end of the service, people walk around that person, even stepping over that person, just trying to make no contact at all. Now, this is obviously something that wouldn't happen ever, I hope. But isn't this almost like a person who claims to be a Christian but doesn't serve others? Being a Christian isn't just sitting in the pews every Sunday. Sometimes you have to get out and help your fellow Christians, and even people who aren't Christians. I had a chance to do that last summer when the youth group went around to help take care of and fix up elderly people's houses. There were people who couldn't do the work for themselves. I painted ironwork for most of the day, and at another house I helped Maynard, Daniel, and some other people in the youth group build a handrail and walkway so an elderly woman could get safely in and out of her house. I remember on that day we were competing with Daniel to see who could dig the deepest holes for the posts. And I mean, I obviously won. But we have to show our Christianity through our actions, rather than just through singing and reading the Bible. It's not just good to sit back and watch, it's good to take action. And I can apply that to my Christian life too. If I see someone in need, or a Christian brother or sister who isn't making great choices, I need to take action and reach out to them and encourage them spiritually. We might not all be able to jump up when someone passes out in church because we don't all have the same medical background, but we do need to be prepared to jump out of our safe comfort zone when we see an opportunity to serve like Jesus wants us to. It's not only a responsibility for us to serve others, but it's also a privilege, because God usually teaches us a lesson in those situations. One year for youth group, we spent the evening serving hungry people in York with a portable soup kitchen. It was dark, and each time we set up at a new location, I remember people taking turns saying grace over the food. This was one of the first times in my life that I had been in close quarters with homeless people. I immediately realized that not everyone has the same privileges and luxuries as I enjoyed. But it also showed me that I needed to be more humble and more appreciative of what I had. I later realized that not everyone has the same Christian influence as me as well. And that was a special lesson that God taught me in that act of service. Another thing God does besides teaching us in these situations is that He strengthens the relationships amongst Christians. Seeing people come back from New Orleans trips, I usually hear a story, usually from Ray Lane, since she's my Sunday school teacher. I hear a lot of those kind of stories, but it would usually be about something crazy that happened over the trip, and the group knew that it wasn't any coincidence. They knew that God was behind it. This strengthened their relationships, and it also strengthened their faith. Hearing the crazy stories, I knew that there was no other explanation except that God was working with the team because they had traveled so far to serve Him. If you're doing work for God, then God's definitely going to be backing it up. He helped us out on the way, and seeing people come back from these mission trips also showed me how being around people with the same Christian background as you, how it creates a really strong bond between you. It helps build the personality and character of who they are. And it's like when you're being around someone who's not a Christian, they can lead you to make bad decisions, and just like being around Christians can help you make good, godly decisions. And this is going to be a really important lesson for me as I get ready to leave Winston and go to college. And we can learn a lot from what the Bible tells us about being servants. In Acts 26:16, when Paul was on trial before he had to go to Rome, he told his testimony about how Jesus spoke to him on the road to Damascus. Jesus told him, "Now get to your feet, for I have appeared to you to appoint you as my servant and witness. You are to tell the world what you have seen and what I will show you in the future." Serving alone is a good thing to do. It's a responsibility, a privilege, and it helps build your relationship with Christ. But serving with others also does that, and it builds your relationship between you and other Christians. So like Paul, we need to get to our feet and grow through service to God. And I guess you can stand and join hands for the benediction.